when you are financially free, you can make some serious impact in this world. You can do what you want to do. You can, support who you want to support. You can amplify your voice and your message in a bigger and more meaningful way.
John Lee Dumas, welcome to the show and another episode of the Unstoppable Woman podcast. I'm super excited to have you here. If you don't know already, John Lee Dumas is the founder and host of the massively successful podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, and is the fearless leader of a following of, I think, over 180,000 entrepreneurs, sidepreneurs, wannapreneurs, small business owners, and people pursuing their own version of freedom that he calls Fire Nation. He's interviewed over 3,000 incredible entrepreneurs, including, and I'm going to name drop here, Tony Robbins, Seth Godin, Gary Vee, who's one of my faves, actually.
Yeah, he's the best.
Barbara Cochran, also one of my faves, and Tim Ferris. But it wasn't always peaches and creams, rainbows, and unicorns. For the first 9 months of the podcast, no revenue was coming in, and everyone around him, including his podcast mentor and mastermind group, was telling him that a 7-day-a-week podcast was not the way to go. Big, bad idea. But he had a vision and he stuck with it with a commitment to giving high value to his listeners, and now has millions of people downloading his podcast every month. And that commitment is something I am super interested in exploring with him, since after spending 8 years of his life as an officer in the Army with a 13-month tour of duty in Iraq, which I thank you so much for your service. His early career after that was not exactly a poster child for commitment. He jumped from law school, dropping out year one, to corporate finance, to commercial real estate, trying to find his way, and didn't really land on the thing that lit him up and got him on fire to slay the day, if you will, to now being super focused in his lane, living his passion, making a huge impact, great income, which, by the way, he shares on his website publicly, which I think is a great idea. I know Pat Flynn does that as well. Super cool. He's made it happen for himself, and he now is coming out with a book very soon. And we are releasing this the month it's coming out. So there it is, the common path to uncommon success. I love it. Where he lays out a 17-step roadmap, which we will get into, that will guide you to financial freedom and fulfillment. I've personally pre-ordered it, and I hope you all do too. So welcome to the show, John. It is great to have you here.
Listen, I'm fired up to be here. That person you were just describing sounds like a cool dude. I want to meet him, but no, seriously, thanks for all that.
Don't you?
Much appreciated. Super fun. I'm looking forward to a great conversation with you today, and just really adding value specifically to your listeners and your viewers. That's the goal.
Well, let's start with that, because you lead with that a lot. You talk about giving value, and one of the things that I preach, I talk to my clients about, is giving is the first law of receiving. And yet it can't be with an eye to manipulation or an energy of martyrdom. It has to be free and clear. So the energy behind it has to be free and clear. So I'm interested in how you approach just giving value with being strategic, because I know you're strategic about how you've grown your business, even though sometimes it's 20/20 hindsight strategy. Oh, that looks good looking back. But like, how do you blend the two? That like, I'm just gonna give freely with just no strings attached and strategy.
So you mentioned I was an officer in the U.S. Army, and at 26 years old, I had just finished my 4th year of active duty, and I entered the reserves. So therefore, I actually entered the real world. And the next 6 years were tough. I mean, they were not happy. They were not successful. I went to law school, dropped out, corporate finance, quit, commercial real estate, not for me, all these different things. It wasn't working for me. It just wasn't working for me. And then on that point of value that you brought up, I was reading a business book, trying to educate myself, trying to get out of this funk that I was in. And it was a quote by Albert Einstein that virtually slapped me in the face. And that quote was, try not to become a person of success, but rather a person of value. And I had to look in the mirror and I'm like, I've actually just been chasing success for the past 6 years. And I've been finding failure and unhappiness and unfulfillment. What am I doing that's actually being a person of value? And the answer was nothing. I wasn't being a person of value if I was being honest with myself. And so the aha moment didn't come in that specific lightning bolt of a concept, but I just kind of chewed on it. I thought about it and I said, the next thing I do will be value first, free and valuable and consistent. Those are the 3 tenets of that next thing I do. And to make a really long story short, I was consuming a lot of podcasts. And I remember saying to myself, I want to go and find that daily podcast that's interviewing entrepreneurs and telling their stories, because I'm learning so much from the episodes that I'm listening to on other podcasts, but they're coming out once a week. So it's not enough. I need to have one waiting for me every single day, 7 days a week. And I went back to search for that podcast and it did not exist. And I was like, mind blown. How does this not exist? Just, of course, being naive and ignorance is bliss. I didn't realize how much work it would be, of course. And I said, hey, why not follow Gandhi's advice here and be the change you want to see in the world? I wanted to see a daily podcast in the world that was interviewing entrepreneurs. So why not be that podcast? And so back in 2012, I launched the first daily podcast interviewing entrepreneurs. As you and I are talking, I've published over 3,000 episodes. I've had over 100 million listens to date. The podcast gets over 1.4 million listens every single month. And as you mentioned with our income report, we've now published 89 monthly income reports in a row with a net profit of over $100,000 net profit every single month. And that's, by the way, is with 3 virtual assistants. Like it's me, Kate, and 3 virtual assistants. So it's a lean, mean profit-making machine. And I'm really focused on that because, man, when you are financially free, you can make some serious impact in this world. You can do what you want to do. You can, support who you want to support. You can amplify your voice and your message in a bigger and more meaningful way. And that's, where the whole concept of this book comes from, is how to get you there, how to get you financial freedom, how to get you fulfillment. And it's a 17-step roadmap. It's not complicated. And that's what I had to write.
I love it. I want to dive into that in a moment, but bridge the gap for me on, I just wanted to do this thing because I saw a need in the marketplace, and I get it, right? The law of compensation says that you are going to be compensated according to the problem that you're solving, the need for what you're doing, plus a few other things, your ability to do it and the difficulty in replacing you. That being said, you weren't starting with a strategy, but obviously there's strategy along the way, correct? I mean, are you not thinking of, like, for instance, you're launching a book right now, right? And you're going to give my audience a huge amount of value, and it's a strategy, right? Like you thought, okay, my first book, I love it. It is your first book, right?
First traditionally published book. It's the culmination of everything.
Congratulations. I love it. I love it. But so, like, pull back the curtains a little bit. What's been your strategy for launching the book and integrating that with this concept of leading with value, leading with giving?
Lead with value, lead with giving. I mean, I want to echo those words that you share because they're so, so powerful. Like, I had to, again, back in 2012, be honest with myself. What am I doing of value? And I was really doing nothing. And so when I committed to doing something that was free, valuable, and consistent, I was serious. That's why I went daily, because I wanted to give. And for 9 months, it was just giving. That was, 200 plus episodes of just putting it out there into the universe, hoping people were listening, not seeing any return on that investment, just free, valuable, consistent content. Of course, talking to amazing people, learning from every one of them. I mean, loving those conversations I was having, but literally making $0 essentially in the first 9 months. And then, from months 9 to 13, I brought in a little money here and there with sponsorships and coaching, a little bit of this. But it wasn't really until the 13-month point that I had my first breakthrough. And like, when you really do the math, I was actually like month 16 or 17, because I had a 3-month pre-launch period. So like, this was well over a year of just giving value, of just, as Gary would say, jab, 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 before you give that right hook. And so for me, it was just giving. It was just learning and finding myself and improving my skills as an entrepreneur, as a podcast host, putting in those reps. And then as much as I could, when people were so grateful that I put this daily podcast out, because not of the value that I was giving, because I was giving personally very little. I didn't know what I was talking about or doing, but I was just asking my guests good questions and getting out of the way. And they were providing huge value. So the shows were valuable. I just realized that, man, I need to engage with my listeners. And so when they would reach out and say, John, thank you for the great show. I'm so glad you brought so-and-so on. I'd say 4 questions. Number 1, how'd you hear about me? So I could start to learn how people were actually hearing about the podcast. So I could actually amplify the ways that we're working. And then number 2, what did you like about the show? I could actually start to understand and listen and hear people telling me what they liked about the show. So I could start doing more of those things. Number 3, what don't you like about the show? Now, the first person that told me what they didn't like about the show, I didn't go change the show immediately. That could have been an anomaly. But over time, if I got a very consistent response on one certain thing that wasn't liked, then yeah, it's time to change things up there. And then number 4, the most important question, what is your biggest struggle right now? What's your biggest struggle in your life right now? You are my listener. You're listening to my podcast. You're liking my podcast, which is why you're reaching out to me and thanking me for it. You are one of my top raving fans in this moment. I need to know what your biggest struggles are. And they would tell me, and I would keep documents of all of these things. And so when it came time for me to then down the road, create the solution for that problem in the form of a product or a service or a community, I built up that know, like, and trust because I've been delivering this free podcast for over a year at this point. I knew my audience. I asked them what they were struggling with. And then I'm saying, you told me what you're struggling with. Here's the solution. Take it. This is what it is. And that's how I built a business. It's not complicated.
Feedback was the big strategy there.
And nobody gets feedback. Nobody actually engages with their audience in a meaningful way. In an unmeaningful way happens all the time. Great show. Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Heart this, like that, do this.
But asking that next question, asking for,
So the next question is digging deeper. It's really getting personal. It's really uncovering those things that I just shared, specifically the last one, what's your biggest struggle, so that you know what solutions should and need to be created in their world.
Love it.
That's where the true fire is.
Love it. Love it. Love it. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, John, was because I know that you run this business with your life partner. And many of my clients...
My fiance, thank you.
Congratulations. I didn't realize that.
I popped the ring on Christmas Day.
I assume she said yes. Well, she's your fiance, so she said yes. Fantastic. Congratulations. I love it. So a lot of my audience is mostly women entrepreneurs, and many of them run their businesses with their life partners. And sometimes their life partners are also other entrepreneurs. They might be in different businesses or they're not entrepreneurs. But for this question, I want you to specifically speak to any advice you would have for women entrepreneurs, for the Kristens of my world, right? How do you successfully navigate working in the same business and building it together? What have been the pitfalls? What have been the great moments? How do you make it better every day and keep growing there?
So one thing, again, that you really need to be living in, and this does go for females and males, but I'm speaking directly to the females because, you specifically asked, is, are you living in your zone of fire? Are you actually operating on your big idea and in your big idea every single day? And the answer for most people is no, they're just not. It's like they're getting up and they're doing something that's moving their business forward. They might be making a little bit of money and this and that. But at the end of the day, they started the thing they're doing right now because they saw somebody else was doing it. And now they're like, well, they're having success. I'll just do that. And they've now formed this weak, pale imitation of somebody else. And then they're wondering why they're not standing out or they're not getting traction. You need to sit down and really dial in step one. Step one of the 17-step roadmap, your big idea. It's critical to get this right. And again, so many people have it wrong. And by the way, those people that have it right, it feels awesome to validate and confirm it. So you need to do this process. You need to do the step. And so many people have it wrong, but it's not like they're way off. Maybe sometimes it's just a tweak, an adjustment, a pivot. And now they're really, cooking with fire, so to speak. They're really living in their zone of genius, in their zone of fire. And I've seen this happen so often where just this little click, this little twist has just opened up a whole new mindset for people. Now they're off to the races. And some people are just like, whoa, this was a wake up call that I am actually way over here and my zone of fire is right here. I'm just wiping the slate clean, and don't have that sunk cost fallacy of just because you were doing something for a certain amount of time, you're going to have to do it today, tomorrow, in the future. Like, no, every day is a new day, and you should be excited and willing to reinvent yourself in that manner. There are so many miserable, depressed lawyers because they went to one semester of law school. Same thing goes with doctors and fill in the blank for any profession. There's like, oh, I spent $10,000 on tuition for this semester, so I guess I've got to be a lawyer for the next 40 years of my life. It's like,
no,
the worst mistake of your life. Again, for some people, for a lot of people, like that's just reality.
So did you have to work that out in terms of what your zone of genius was, or your zone of fire, and what Kristen's zone of genius and zone of fire was? Was there any complication around that?
A lot of complication.
Yeah. And how did you work that out? So how did you do that in partnership with each other?
So what's really important is you sit down. And just so you're confusing me a little bit, you're saying Kristen, are you meaning Kate, my fiance?
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No problem. I just want to make sure.
Did I do poor research?
No, it's Kate. But listen, I actually thought you might be talking about like a female avatar named Kristen. So I just wanted to make sure you were talking about the right person. So yeah, so Kate.
We're just going to have to, do we edit this out, or do we leave what is it called? The blooper. This is the big blooper.
This is huge. And this is like, I think this is actually a learning point for people. And this is why you have to keep it in. Like, people are going to come up to you at conferences. You're going to get emails on this. You're going to get messages. They're going to be like, first off, like, that was hilarious. Thank you for calling, like Kate Kristen for the first half of the interview, because you're a human, you make mistakes. And thank you for not editing it, because so many people are so scared of creating content, of putting it out in the world, of doing things, because they're like, what if I make a mistake? What if you
make mistakes all the time? Oh my God.
Every single person, because you're a human being. So embrace those mistakes. Your audience is going to love it. My dog, last interview, my dog's right here sleeping. Yeah. He just literally like ripped it. And like the host kind of looked at me and I'm like, I swear it was my dog. And the interview before that, literally, Gus is his name. He just barked and I'm just like, oh, let's bring Gus into the interview. Like, I didn't try to hide it or like not ignore it. I'm just like,
well, you know what's funny about this is I had a little question for you. Like, are you in partnership with Kate?
Yeah.
And then I did like on my little notes, and then I did a little bit more research, and I eliminated that. But I know this is like one of my Achilles heels, whatever you want to call it, my not so great traits, which is I flip names around and I like.
Let's put the record real quick. You did great research, because, so many people for years now, like 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 2 years ago, are just like, oh yeah, how are you and your wife doing? And on shows, and which is fine. I don't even correct them because it's no big deal. But like, they just have no idea. But like until just a month ago, she was my life partner. So I was like, you're doing good. You're all right.
But, note to self, don't cross off. Don't erase the question that the person.
Oh man, these are the best parts. Oh, these are
I love it. Okay, back to the point though, because I think this is a big deal for people. It's hard to navigate with their partners. They're in the business 24 hours a day. They have the entrepreneur head. How do you pull out? How do you navigate? Who does what? Are you all both in your zone of genius? You were just
it's a great question. I will say there's a great book called The 5 Love Languages.
I love it.
It's a classic.
Yeah.
And, there needs to be like an entrepreneurial love language book. So by the way, if anybody thinks they can take that project on, like, you should, because it's needed. What's interesting is Kate's really not an entrepreneur. Like, she never has been. She was not when I met her. She had a 9-to-5 job that she actually really liked and all of those things. And the reason why Kate and I work so well is because she's not this like idea entrepreneur, like big idea all over the place map. She loves having a job to do and doing it. She's operations. She's detail oriented. She does all of the systems, all of the accounting, that all this jazz, like unbelievably important parts of the business that frankly, like people like myself and probably you and most entrepreneurs who are kind of like the face of the business, are either terrible and or hate doing. And so Kate came in and she's like, I'm not going to come up with my own ideas and do my own thing. But since I see you have an established business, because I was like 8 months in and things were picking up and momentum was happening. She's like, I can come in and help. She's like, I'm not going to launch ever my own thing, but I can come in and help this. So she was the right fit from day one because we weren't like two entrepreneurs like trying to do this thing together. It was me launching Entrepreneurs on Fire, hacking out a little niche, a little tiny niche, getting a little momentum, and then bringing Kate in to just like be amazing in her role, which is, doing all those things that I mentioned, and me being amazing at my role, which is having these interviews, doing the face-to-face, the voice-to-voice, and having the big ideas, and her being like nine of those 10 are dumb ideas. And I'm like, you're totally right. But that one though, it's not a terrible idea. We're doing it. Let's go.
So what I'm hearing you say is that she is a great second in command. She runs.
She is an amazing number two. Like you need one of those in your business, whether you're paying, she's on salaries, so she's getting paid, believe me. But I mean, whether you're like, it's your partner or somebody you find to hire and to do that, like all that jazz, like that is.
We all need a Steve Ballmer. Yeah.
All need one.
Yeah, totally. Love it. Okay. So next question for you. And then I want to dig into the book because I think that this is it's a cool concept. So in my research, hopefully I won't have to say names now. Oh, I have one name I have to say in this. Ooh. Okay. But, so I'm a lover of Gary Vee. I just adore him. And I read someplace that you used to have a morning routine where you got up and one of the things that you did might have been listen to Gary Vee. And then you have this, if I could give myself advice to my younger self, it would have been chill and relax, right? Like just allow more. So let's talk about this dynamic, this dichotomy between the go hard, the work ethic, right? Like just like grind it out, which is the Gary Vee style. Now he does it with a great attitude. I happen to do it with a great attitude. There's a grind it out with your monkey on your back attitude. And there's grind it out. Like I just love what I do and I'm going to grind. And then there's the relax and allow approach. So you're saying both things. How do you integrate? What's your vision on that? What is your personal, not your theoretical, but like, how do you actually live that?
So for me, I love to just nose to the grindstone and work hard. And I did that for the first few years of my business, like many hours a day, many hours a week. And I made it happen. And then I built a business that has systems and tools and a team. And now I don't have to do that. So now I have, times when I sit down and I'm working harder and more efficiently than pretty much any other human being I've ever met and that I know in a 2-hour block, in a 4-hour block. Sometimes if, it's a really crazy day, maybe a 6-hour block, literally. Am I ever going to want or be a Gary Vaynerchuk who wakes up in the morning and then he just grinds till midnight, 6-7 days a week, he in New York City with 850 people, in his business, doing this, doing that. Just not the life I want to live. I'm in Puerto Rico, man. I'm on the Caribbean. I want to wake up. I want to have a block of unbelievably hard work to do and get it done. And then I'm done. And then I'm down by the pool. I'm walking my dog. I'm relaxing. I'm reading a book. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. Like that's what I want. That's what I need.
Love it.
So again, I'm all about going all in, but it's a very efficient block of time. Now, 9 years in, I was, to get the business off the ground, it was grind central.
Yeah, there was some leverage that had to happen there. Okay, got it. That makes a lot of sense. I love that clarification. Okay, let's dive into the book. You told us step 1. Which of the next 17 steps would you like to tell us about? Like what's going to be like the thing that my audience is going to go like?
Yeah, I have the absolute answer for you based on how this conversation has been going. And the reality is this book, The Common Path to Uncommon Success, it is the culmination of the 3,000 plus interviews that I've done over the past 9 years of my own 9-year journey, 8 of which, by the way, the last 8 have been a multi-million-dollar a year running this business, Entrepreneurs on Fire. Incredibly profitable, incredibly lean, making things happen. A lot of lessons learned from running my business, but countless lessons learned from these interviews that I've done with the world's most inspiring entrepreneurs that I've distilled down into these 17 core foundational principles. This is a 17-step roadmap, chronological, that will get you to financial freedom and fulfillment. This is the common path to uncommon success. It is my life's work to date. It's my best work ever. It will get you there. We talked about your big idea, number 1. I want to move forward to chapter 7. which is a beast. Like every one of these chapters is like 3,000 to 5,000 words, which is kind of average. This chapter is 13,500 words. It could be a book by itself. I mean, this book has got it's got 71,000 words in it. So it's a big, meaty book. But just chapter 7, you're creating your content production plan. Creating your content production plan. After I finished that chapter, I had no idea it was going to be that long. I looked at it, I was like, holy crap. Like, this is why we're so successful. This is why I've built this 7-figure a year business for 8 years in a row now with 3 virtual assistants. Like, this makes so much sense to me. We have such an amazing content production plan. It is unbelievable. And this is where so many people get it wrong. Because like everybody, I'm talking about my peers, people that are in my audience, are like, John, like, wow, you produce so much content, like, and it's so good and high quality. You must have a massive team. Like, Gary has 17 people that just work on his content. It's like, no, it's like I have 3 virtual assistants and they're busy doing other things besides content production. Like, our systems and our tools and our automations are so amazing. Chapter 7, it will change your business. It will change your life. Just that one chapter of the 17, but of course, all 17 are amazing. And I'm really passionate about this book. Like, we're super, super geared up on pre-orders because that makes or breaks book launches. So we decided to make it such a no-brainer. If anybody who just pre-orders the book before the March 23rd date, we have 5 bonuses. All 5, by the way, get pulled the day it launches because we can't keep doing these bonuses. You'll hear why in a second. But we have 5 bonuses for people who pre-order. They're all flipping amazing. Just the first bonus, I'll give you a tease. I'm shipping all 3 of my journals. All 3 of my journals, the Podcast Mastery and Freedom Journal, I'm shipping to your door. Literally, if you're in the US, I'm shipping all 3 of these to your door, $150 worth of journal values to your door. If you're outside the US, you get the digital packs, which are beautiful. They're fillable. They're gorgeous. 4 other bonuses as well. You'll have to find out what those 4 are. They're amazing. When you visit uncommonsuccessbook.com. Uncommonsuccessbook.com. There's a video of details from me about the book, my endorsements from Gary Vaynerchuk, Seth Godin, Neil Patel, Dory Clark, Erica Mandy. All 5 bonuses are listed out there. You can pre-order the book, lock in all these bonuses, and it's my gift to you.
I think that's fabulous. I love that. I pre-ordered. I have to go back and look at what the other 4 bonuses are. I had no idea that there were bonuses. I just wanted the book. So, and I hope everyone goes out and buys it because John has been listening to 3,000, not just some entrepreneurs, but successful entrepreneurs and picking their brains a half an hour at a time and finding the patterns, finding out what makes successful people successful. And one of the ways that I scaled my business and became successful, and at least from a financial perspective, I would say from a personal perspective as well, was modeling what successful people do. It's like success leaves breadcrumbs. So if you want the breadcrumbs and you want someone to distill it for you, like run, don't walk. Okay. I have a final question for you, John. And what I ask all my guests, what makes you unstoppable?
My desire to give a ripple effect to the world, to inspire somebody who's going to inspire somebody down the line. That's what makes me unstoppable because my inspiration never stops.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much for doing your work in this world, for all the interviews, for distilling it into this book, for bringing these little, you call them value bombs, to the conversation today and sharing your story. So thank you so much. It's been great having you on. Take care.
Adios. Thank you.
Okay. And that's a wrap.
Everyone's made for greatness, but not everyone executes on it. If you feel like you're hitting an invisible barrier and you're not living up to your full potential, join us at the Unstoppable Woman Income Breakthrough Summit, where I'll show you exactly how to get out of your own way, apply the universal laws to your business, and scale quickly. Learn more and grab your ticket at theunstoppablewoman.com/summit.